And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. We have Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy, Sean Duffy joining me here tonight. And guys, it's championship week. So championship week here in on Sports on Tap, and we'll have the championship game recaps from the state championships this weekend, which I think there were a few upsets. Well, I guess to us they might be upsets. To the teams that won, probably not so much. But, regardless, it was a great weekend of high school football. It's really our last week, but we do have a great show for you coming up here. We're not sure. It could be 7:50 for head coach of Holy Name, Dan Wondolowski, coming on our program here. And also at 8:10, Elyria Catholic head coach Brian Fox will join us from the Elyria Catholic Panthers, as they'll come on and talk about their season, the playoffs, and all that fun stuff. But guys, how was your weekend?
Hard to say. Hard to believe that the season is now officially over. This 16-week sprint / marathon that we've been on since August has finally come to a conclusion. And as I may have texted you guys earlier, I think I have a little bit of crow to eat given some of the teams that I was very confident in winning their respective games. Fell a little short, but to be fair, the teams.
Let me stop you there. Let me stop you there because I'll give you some benefit of the doubt, because this whole time, you, along with the rest of us, has all been saying it's theirs until they get beat, and those teams that we're talking about got beat. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. So,
fair point.
Exactly. I mean, when you have a win streak like Kirtland did, I mean, it's tough to go against them, especially with the culture they have. We've talked all about it. They've won games, and other teams have come close but haven't been able to knock them off. And this year we'll get to the recap and see what they were or weren't able to do. But, you got to give credit to the teams out there. I mean, we had some really close games. There were crazy high-scoring ones. There were a few, but, nonetheless, we had some really good games to look forward to.
I was just impressed because it was so weird that normally we're talking, I think, is it normally around the previous schedule that around Thanksgiving is usually right about the state championships. That at least I'm used to before they expanded it and all. So it was interesting because we had state championship week in Ohio. We had conference championship in college. Nothing much going on in college football. Very low key. Not a lot of changes. Not a lot of massive problems to deal with. So it's funny to me because I was not here on the show last week, and I was dealing with all this. I did listen back, and I agreed with everything Ed said. And then, so Ed, make sure you share some of that crow with me, because I was right on board with you on a lot of these, because for the last couple of years, it's been death taxes and these teams winning a state championship. And unfortunately, you know what? That's why they play the game, right?
That's right.
Certainly. And there's we'll start with a result that we had a good feeling about. It was the Division I state championship. It was the Springfield Wildcats, representing Region 3, taking on the Lakewood St. Ed's Eagles, representing Region 1. And St. Ed's comes away with a 23-13 victory over Springfield. I saw a little bit of this game on Friday night. I didn't watch the whole thing, but the big thing that seemed to have that I've read about is that the line of St. Ed's controlled, the line in the running game was the big difference here. Danny Enovich had 210 yards on 32 carries to go with 2 touchdowns. One of which, he had a 72-yard run in the very first drive to kind of get the ball rolling for him. And they were able to, they had a lot of ball control as well. They were able to convert 9 out of 13 third downs to keep Springfield's offense off the board. Christian Ramos did what what you would expect to from a senior quarterback. Trying to stop a quarterback the caliber of Tayshaun Smoot, not very easy. And St. Ed's did exactly what they've done in the past few rounds when they go up against a star quarterback, and they found a way to corral them. Josh saw it firsthand against Drew Ellar in Medina in the regional championship, and they seem to have found the formula to get where they needed to defensively.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Ed. And I did watch this game on Friday night, and your point about the running game is correct. And that first run that Inovich had, that 72-yarder, give credit to Springfield. Their defense actually held Ed's goal line stance. And right there, I was like, whoa, it's maybe not going to be that easy for Ed's, but they came to play. Their defense has athletes in all three stages of defense, on that line, in the linebacking core, and definitely in the defensive backfield. And that's how they limit those those stud quarterbacks, is they are able to match their speed with the speed of the DBs, and able to go one-on-one. Springfield has a sophomore wide receiver, and I forget his name, but he's already committed to Minnesota, a Big Ten school, and they were able to, for the most part, keep him in check, and that's what they did. And you made a great point with ball control. That offensive line set the tone for the Eagles, and Danny Enovich came in 210 yards, state final game. That kid is fast, deceptively fast, and he was the same against Medina when I saw them live, and just all around. They always say, a successful football game, you win in all three phases, and they did that in this game.
Yeah, they got off to a hot start. You talk about defense. They had a safety in the second quarter and were up 16-0 before Springfield got on the board. So, they jumped out to a really good start, and they were able to hold off Springfield. So a very impressive win, and congratulations to the St. Edward Eagles on their Division I, Region I championship.
All right, let's shift over to Division II. Defending state champion Akron Archbishop Hoban, the Knights, took on the Cincinnati Winston Woods Warriors. Last Division II championship came in 2009, and Winston Woods took it to the Knights, and they get a 21-10 victory to win their state championship. And this was one of those games that this is one of those games where I was very clear and said, someone's got to take it from Hoban, and Winton Woods took it from Hoban. They played very physical. Their running back is extremely fast. I saw some of the damage that he did against Green last week in the state semifinals. But Tyreek Spikes, he's small in stature, but he's got a lot of speed and a lot of heart, and it's not very often that someone can outrun Hoban, but this guy can. And they beat Hoban up, which is something we're not used to seeing and or reading about when we're talking about the Archbishop Hoban Knights. So a tremendous effort by Winton Woods, and a great season by Hoban nonetheless. It's not very often that you make it to this stage. We were used to seeing Hoban there, but they lost a lot of talent, and the fact that they were able to get back to the Division II championship is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Something that stood out when I was looking over, the replay of this game and some of the coverage of this was just how physical Winton Woods was with Hoban. And I think in Hoban's losses this year, a team that was able to either mash or out-physical them was usually able to find a lot of success. And I think that's what we saw here. And it was no secret, right? I mean, Winton Woods did their homework. They realized, hey, we can't allow our speed to just, we have to be there, punch them in the mouth early. And I think that's what they did. And I think when you do that against a team like Hoban, especially this year, you were able to find some success. And I think, Cincinnati Woods definitely, or Winton Woods, did do that. And Hoban, again, as you said, Ed, I mean, they lost a lot, and to be in the state's finals again, that's a tip of the cap to that program. Obviously, it's disappointing. You want to see, you want to continue that, but hey, Winton Woods had the right strategy, and they played it to perfection. And they beat the defending, reigning, undisputed champion to take the championship from them, and that's what you have to do. And they did exactly what Ed and to a lesser extent me said is it was Hoban's until he took it from Hoban, and went into Canton and took it. And congratulations to them on a fantastic season in their state in the Division II state championship. Hoban again did what they do. They're there and they have an opportunity, and it just didn't work out this time for them.
Yeah, and also give credit. I happen to be listening to this one, and props to Game Day Broadcasting Sport Network. Those guys did the audio for all 7 games this past weekend, and during the contest, they kept hammering home the point that the Winton Woods defense was just suffocating. Akron Archbishop Hoban could not get anything going offensively, and that's a prime example of defense this late in the year and this kind of game. Those win you championships, and in this game it did.
Yeah, we know Hoban can run the ball, and they just obviously weren't able to. Great defense by Winton Woods to get the win there.
All right. Well, moving on to Division III. A little bit of chalk here. I think we can look and say the defending reigning champions held serve as Chardon overcame Hamilton Baden 21-14 to win their Division III final. And again, as Ed mentioned with Hoban and with Kirtland and all these other teams, all roads lead through Chardon in Division III. And unfortunately, next year it's going to be the same as always. Congratulations to the Hilltoppers. They got they edged out Hamilton Baden, and Hamilton Baden, is a team that I'm familiar with because unlike Ed and Josh and Rob, I played my high school football in southwestern Ohio in the Dayton, Cincinnati area. So I'm very familiar with Hamilton Baden as a program, and they're always in it every year, whether they're Division II, whether they're Division III, whatever division they're in, they're a program that's well coached. But again, you look at a team like Chardon and the way that they're built. They're built from the inside out. They control the line of scrimmage. They run the ball, and they play really good defense. And what you saw here again is a low scoring game. The last 3 games we saw were not shootouts by any mean. They were not whoever has the ball last because the defenses aren't showing up. This was a defensive battle, and we see it every year in the state championships. Is usually the teams that get there either have a great defense or dynamic offense that can't be denied, and we see it here. Chardon has a balanced attack, a great defense, an offense that can score points in any phase of the game, and on special teams. And, they were able to overcome a very, very good Hamilton-Baden team. Look, there's no accident that Baden's here, and they're a very good, well-coached program. But it's definitely important to see that the Hilltoppers did get the Division III crown. They retained their championship, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, kind of drive the point home, Sean, about this being a defensive battle. It was 14-14 actually going into that third quarter, or going into the fourth quarter, excuse me. And then Chardon was able to score the winning touchdown with 1:05 left in the game. So, it wasn't necessarily, they had a big, huge defensive stop to win the game. They had to drive down towards the end of the game and win it, and they did that. They scored from about 2 yards out, running the ball for their 21-14 win. Also had the opportunity to listen to this one a little bit, and it's just fun to hear the enthusiasm and energy that the guys on the audio call had for this game. They were into it, and they could tell it was the defensive battle.
Yeah, great game, and congratulations to Chardon. They continue on. They're one team that still able to get it done.
That is 28 straight victories for Chardon, going all the way back to 2019. Congratulations to the Hilltoppers, and good luck to Division III for trying to knock them off. Because I think the coach even said it. He said he underestimated his own team, and I doubt he's going to do that again. And no one is underestimating Chardon until someone can beat them. So congratulations. All right, let's shift over to the Division IV final. What a game this was. Clinton Maxey from Clarksville, a 29-28 victory over Youngstown Ursuline, the Fighting Irish. And certainly the closest out of all the games that we that were from the state championships here. And Clinton Massey gets it done against a very, very good, traditionally good Youngstown Ursuline team.
Yeah, and Ursuline, Ed, was up 21-7 at one point, and
28-14 going into the fourth.
Pretty impressive.
And if looking at the stats there, I'm trying to pull that one up. I didn't realize that Excel was that the PDF was opening up in the bottom of my screen. I think I opened one up like 50 times. There we go. Yeah, I mean, Clinton Massey with 15 unanswered points. Well, actually, technically 22 unanswered points. But Josh, to your point, they scored with about 7 or a little more than 5 minutes left in the game. Went for 2 and got it. Extreme confidence on the part of Clinton Massey for going for it, and they were able to get it done. It was Vanderhoos with the rush after a touchdown run by Zantine and a 1 yard run out. 13 plays, 77-yard drive. Actually, no, sorry, I read this wrong. That was in the last minute. My fault. Last minute. It was a 7-minute drive. Talk about that. That is a heck of a drive to end the game.
Yeah.
A 7-minute drive, sucking the life out of your opponents, and not only getting the score to put you in position, but then just running it right up their throat and ending the game on it. That is really well done by Clinton Massey on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely impressive, and it's again, you look at these games, and a lot of it has to do with game plan. A lot of it has to do with strategy and doing what got you there. But as Ed mentioned, that may have been what Clinton Massey did all year, was salt away games, score when they need to. But to go for 2, you got to wonder. That's a gambler's mentality. You could have tied it up, but you go for 2 for the win. It's either a legendary story at the end of the game, or where everyone says, "Why did you do that? Why didn't you just kick the field goal and go to overtime?" The coach, bears out the coach being right. Unfortunately, to gamble there. So congratulations, man. That's an awesome finish. I didn't actually get to listen or watch this game. I wanted to because it intrigued me, but unfortunately, I was not able to. And it was. But when I looked at the box score, I was like, wow. You were right to be down that much, and then to kind of collect yourself and come back, and not only on the offensive end scoring the points, but on the defensive end not allowing any additional points to be scored in a big game like that. Ursuline probably had a lot of momentum, and to stop that momentum dead in its tracks and get your own momentum, that's a tall task for any team to do, and Clinton Massey was able to do it.
Yeah, impressive win there, guys, and we'll get to the rest of the divisions here in a minute, but without further ado, we have head coach Dan Wondolowski of the Holy Name Green Wave that's going to join us here, and want to thank him for coming on. Coach, thanks for taking time to join us here tonight.
How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Good, no problem. So, the playoffs ended. You were in the playoffs. You had such a great season. You went in as the A seed. Talk a little bit about your season this year. I mean, you guys really were impressive this season, and I know you were probably happy with the outcome. Keep going in the playoffs, and you guys made it to the regional finals. So an impressive season for you guys. Congratulations, and talk and tell us a little bit about your season.
It was a challenge at some points. We started off, we played our rival Paddle. That's a tough one to get geared up for week 1, playing your rival. Went out and took care of business that game. And then started into the real grind of our schedule with VASJ, Riverside, Elyria Catholic, and not to mention opening with Paddle. Like I said, that's a tough 4 weeks right there. All those teams, made deep runs in the playoffs. So, coming out of that going 1-3, our kids hit some adversity, hit a little bit of got punched in the mouth a little bit, and I felt we stuck together. Our senior leadership was huge for us this year. Our captains and the 19 guys that we had, just sticking to the course or sticking to the plan, staying the course, and then just started getting into conference play. Losing 2 games on last second plays, losing to Valley Forge and then to Buckeye on a last second field goal. That was tough, but the character of our kids, it was get us in, and we got in as that A seed, and we just hit the ground rolling from there.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the success from this year and also from last year. Last year you guys made a really good run to the regional finals again. How much did the run last year help the team out this year once it came playoff time? In your mind, in your opinion?
Tremendously. You look at our last 3 years. I was just kind of prepping a little bit before this, and I did a couple of stats. And the last 3 years, we're 7-3 in the playoffs. All right, and you look at that. That's another season. All right, that's another season our guys get to go out there and practice and play. So for our seniors, actually getting, if you want to call it, that 5th year of high school football. So that prepared us great. I mean, just being able to go in last year, and you don't live off of your laurels from the year before, but going in, beating the number 2 and number 3 seed in the region, that was pretty special for our juniors at the time. And, it was a huge momentum swing. We knew once we got in there, our guys believe in our system. They know what we preach, the off season, and just getting in was, we got in and everybody starts at 0-0 again, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Coach, yeah, absolutely, Coach. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk a little bit about your season. You mentioned your leaders on your team, your senior leadership. Could you talk a little bit about who they were, specifically who you kind of relied upon, especially when you talk about early in the season when you found yourself at 1-3? Who were the guys that were, kind of shouldered that leadership role a little bit more so than they normally would?
I know I'm going to miss guys in this one, so if guys are listening right now, I apologize, but it starts first with our 4 captains. Stanley Watts, Nate Sinagra, Andrew Shiven, and Connor Preisel. Our 4 captains, those guys, their leadership through the adversity was huge. And then, we had the luxury this year of probably having all 19 seniors could be captains. That was a tough choice for the coaches this year. Eric Jones Jr., him coming in, and he's a 4-year starter at Holy Name, probably played the most games in Holy Name history. His leadership was just crucial down the stretch. You got guys like Mason Craycraft, Garrett Elias, John Kosovar. Just across the board, even the unsung guys that didn't get much playing time that were just vital on our scout team. Joe Hackus, guys like that, Cody George. Those guys, they knew their role and they embraced it.
So, Coach, what's you've had now a couple weeks to kind of recap and kind of decompress on your season that you had. Have you guys started off-season workouts yet or anything like that? Are you getting into that?
No, state mandates from your last game. You got 30 days, no contact period. So we'll kick back up here probably right before Christmas with our weight program. That's one thing I could say is a backbone of any program, but especially ours is guys buying in the off season. Holy Name is big on multiple sports. Got guys in the wrestling room, got guys on the ice playing hockey, got guys on the basketball court, and then in the spring, it's lacrosse, baseball, and track. Guys go play their sports, but they're always getting their lift in, which is huge. The leadership, and it's not just the new seniors or the new upperclassmen. It's everybody holding each other accountable to be in that weight room and get prepared for next year.
So kind of to add on to that, for you and your coaching staff, what's this time like in between that, that 30 days? Are you guys just kind of taking a rest, after a long season, or you guys kind of talking and kind of gearing up for some things you're going to look into maybe doing a little different going into next season?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think a lot of disappointment and anger happens that first week. To be honest with you, disappointment that you're not playing, the anger of the stuff you should have done better. The hindsight 2020 stuff during the middle of a playoff game. But now it's back to the grindstone. Our guys, my assistant coaches, Coach Lesniak, Coach Pat, and Coach Day, Coach Scheiben, they're all tasked with getting, kind of evaluating last year. We got some dates set that we want to start looking at things, but right now it's kind of, big thing for us is take care of your families. We've been gone, for 16 weeks. I kind of, use the same 30 days for the coaching staff, single mom wives, that kind of stuff during the season to let the guys get back in the good graces of their wives and girlfriends. and then I kind of pull them back in,
There you go. Yeah, you got to get back, and I'm sure it's nice to hang out with family a little bit and kind of, get some things done and hang out and enjoy the holidays, especially, with Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody was in food coma after, letting loose a little bit and eating some turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and everything else. But, it's probably enjoyable just to get away just a little bit. Obviously, you eat, sleep, and love football, but it's nice to get away. And you and your coaching staff, I think, have done an amazing job with the culture of Holy Name football. I mean, you go from back-to-back solid years, making it deep into the playoffs. How have you been able to really build this culture? And now I'm sure you're getting a lot of kids that are going to Holy Name like, wow, look at the football team. I'd like to be a part of that. How is having back-to-back years helping you with maybe getting some kids to come out and play football now?
That was huge for us this year. Getting some, unsung heroes, I guess you could say, that didn't play football before. Another senior, Liam Hustick, played football as a freshman, didn't play as a sophomore and junior year, but came back out as senior year. Just, his leadership and stuff like that was great. Having the success we have, the culture, it's a school thing. I mean, to be honest with you, you talk about the school pride and everything, having that community back you, guys bought into it, and it's been something that, God, it's been 9 years, Coach Day and I, my defensive line coach, we talk about it all the time. It's been 9 years since we started at the Holy Name. And, it was a challenge that those first couple of years. And I know the guys that have stuck with me, Coach Patton, Coach Kelly, Coach Byrne, it was a challenge changing a culture, but we believe we've changed it. And right now it's kind of that machine where the juniors, they step up into that leadership role from the outgoing seniors. Sophomores and freshmen kind of know, hey, they got to start picking it up, and it just kind of rolls, I don't want to say it kind of drives itself, but in some instances it does. You got to take it off cruise control every now and then to wrangle them back in. They're 14 to 18-year-old kids, so you gotta wrangle them back in sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about just the overall type of student athlete that we have at Holy Name that plays football. Just their grit, their relentlessness. And I actually had to submit some of the stuff for the state academic awards and everything, and our top 22, the Coaches Association has you put down your top 22 grade point averages for returning or for letter winners. And we had, I think it was like a 3.89 out of our top 22 guys.
That's
so
impressive.
That's incredible.
Athletes. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's something to be proud of for all those students. I mean, 3.8. Holy moly.
Jeez, I never came close
that's our
to that.
top 22. Yep.
Sean got there in all 4 years, so you can combine them.
Yeah. If you combine them all, I got 4.0 in all 4 of those years. Gross. I did really well. Coach, early on you mentioned how you have a lot of multi-sport athletes, and I guess the thing that most people think about is that football players are just football players. How critical is it, do you think, to a player's development to go out and play those different sports, whether it be like you mentioned, wrestling, basketball, whatever it is.
I think it's huge. The one thing that coaches can't replicate in the off season is competition. As much as you're in the weight room competing with yourselves, going against an opponent and having that competition, that's huge. That's something we can't replicate in the weight room. We can't replicate in the off season. So one, just going out and be able to compete. Number two is the overuse injuries. You can't just be sports specific. Basketball helps football. Football helps wrestling. Wrestling helps football. I mean, they all are interchangeable, different parts, different muscles. So, I go back and I talk about it a lot. Everybody knows who Urban Meyer is. His last recruiting class at Ohio State, he had 36 full scholarship athletes. 32 of them played multiple sports in high school. So that means four guys that went to Ohio State on a full ride. They were only football sports specific, which is huge.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy.
Hey, we are with the Holy Name head coach Dan Wondolowski, two-time regional finalists in 2 consecutive years. Now, Coach, we talked with Javon Williams a little bit earlier in the year. He's going to be one of your returning seniors, along with Christian Sanchez. These guys were major contributors even as sophomores and took on even a bigger role this year as juniors. What are your expectations specifically for those two going into their senior year, and what things have you noticed since they've come into the program to where they are now?
First and foremost, both of those two individuals, high character kids, have nothing but the ultimate respect for them. And it's fun watching them grow. It's fun watching them be the little annoying freshman on the freshman football team. And then, they took a big leap last year. What was funny is people don't realize that all three, our fullback, our running back, and our quarterback all played for us last year in the regional finals. They returned this year, and they're returning next year. So that's huge to have your backfield back. But no, just watching those two grow, seeing them mature into young men. And, it was funny the end of the year watching, Christian and Vaughn just kind of flip the switch. I can't explain it. It was just one of those things where we hit the playoffs and they just kind of flipped the switch and took it to another level. And, we gotta figure out how to put that all year round for them or all season long next year. But Vaughn had, I think he was close to 800 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground. I think he had 650, 700 yards throwing, 5 touchdowns. And then Christian, he was close to I think 14 or 1,500 yards rushing with 14 touchdowns. So having those two is going to be huge for us next year.
Yeah, so the coach this year was, the first year for the highly confrontational expanded playoffs. Last week we talked to a couple coaches, got their feelings on it. In your opinion, how do you think it went this year? How do you feel about it? Because in your case, you guys finished, 8th in the region, so it didn't benefit you per se, but for some teams it did. So what are your thoughts on the 16th? The game plan.
In all honesty, it did benefit us a little bit. I mean, we weren't playing Norton week 1.
True.
One to get ready for. I have mixed emotions on it. I mean, getting kids the opportunity to play in that week 11 is huge. Anybody that, we're the only sport in high school that not everybody makes the playoffs, so, I have buddies of mine who play or who coach hockey, and another buddy coaches wrestling. And we always said with those two sports was, hey, everything right now is preseason, and your real season starts in tournament play. But for football, it's like, okay, every week is a playoff week. I like the opportunity, that it presents itself for the student athletes, guys that don't get the that would never get the opportunity if it was just the 8. But on the flip side of it, some of the scores that were week 1, it was a little embarrassing to the game, in my opinion.
And that's kind of the common theme that we've gotten through, through the other coaches that we talk to. Maybe 16's too much, but it's good to have, kids that don't necessarily, or teams that wouldn't have an opportunity in the past. They have one now. So I was just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, no, the 12, that's another one. I mean, if they would have stayed with 12, we got a bye last year. And I'll tell you, we were probably that first quarter and a half, a little bit of a funk there. So I don't know what the right answer is. I guess that's why, all of us head coaches, we get paid the big bucks, right?
That's right.
And that's why we don't get paid a lot to ask you those questions. So that's why we're here.
Right.
Well, Coach, you had a great season. Like I said, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us tonight about your team, Holy Name football, the playoffs, and all the above. And I know you're going to go enjoy the rest of your holiday, hopefully with your family. And we want to thank you for coming on tonight and talking a little high school football with us.
Well, thanks for having me. And, for you guys, for us as coaches, for us, for fans out there, we really appreciate what you guys do. It's not the same anymore, PD, around Northeast Ohio. The coverage isn't there. And, having guys like you guys take care of high school football, high school sports in general, it's just awesome to see. So thank you for all you guys do as well.
Well, we really
Thanks,
appreciate that.
Absolutely, Coach. I played some college ball with Coach Lesniak back in the day. We were at Mount Union. So
what year were you at Mount, if you don't mind me asking? I was 01.
02.
Okay. So then we were
02, 03.
Yeah, we were just missing each other then.
Yeah, just missed
you. I was actually, a side note, I was actually at a wedding this past weekend, and I don't know if you remember Coach Velbar.
Yeah.
I saw Coach Velbar at the wedding.
Oh, so no kidding.
It was nice to run into him.
That dude was nuts.
He was crazy.
Oh, man.
It's funny, though, when we go to different locations for football games. Ed knows, I think, most coaches, have gone to a lot of Mount Union alum in the area. That's for sure.
It's it's not even in the area. It's across the country. It's pretty special. I'm not gonna lie. It's and I know you guys are running out of time, but it's pretty special. Going there, playing football, winning a couple national titles was awesome, but the knowledge of football you receive there, it's crazy. And I know I probably got John Carroll and BW guys on here, but
they'll be fine.
It's it's a special place, and the guys that are coaching really know what they're doing. I mean, you look across the board, there's a lot of coaches in Northeast Ohio with that Mount Union connection. So Coach Karras has done a great job in molding a lot of us. So.
Yeah, and there's a reason Mount Union, I mean, how many years they've been winning championships. I mean, year in and year out, they're just dominating, every single season. So it's fun to watch, and it's fun that Ed always can connect the dots here.
Yeah.
He's like Kevin Bacon a little bit with movies,
It's that Mount Union network, bro. It's that
7 degrees of separation, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, Coach, be honest. When 2-a-days start, if you guys still do those, do you have your championship rings?
Yeah.
So you could show the new guys that you know what you're talking about. Just kidding.
Yeah, you have an itch on.
I will be honest. I do wear them on game days. I'll wear one of them on game days, but that's about it. Those come out for special occasions. That's about it.
I heard that, man. The same thing here. Those don't just doesn't come out for anything.
That's right.
It's pretty special though, that's for sure. Well, Coach, thanks for coming on and talking with us, and we really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll have you on before next season.
Absolutely.
And we could preview the Green Wave before next season.
Love to come on. Thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Thanks, Coach. Have a great
Have a good holiday, guys.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Yep, we'll talk to you.
Thank you. All right, that's head coach Dan Wondolowski from the Holy Name Green Wave joining us here on Sports on Tap. Want to thank him for coming on and taking time to speak with us. Just a great guy, and what a great job he's done with the Green Wave. Ed, like you mentioned, I mean, back-to-back great seasons, and you can really see year in and year out the teams believe what he's saying and really continually in that Great Lakes Conference. That's just an absolute tough conference from from top to bottom there, and they've been at the top and really battling there. But a big playoff push. You even said it before we got into playoffs. That 8 seed might be that might go to their advantage a little bit because they're a really good team.
The thing with the thing with the Great Lakes Conference, which we probably talked about, over the last couple of years, is that they're not going to most likely be in the top 25 of most rankings because they beat up on each other, and to come out of that conference unscathed is almost unheard of. But we have seen that once the state playoffs have come around, they can do some damage with 2 teams making it to the regional finals, and other teams making it further in their school history than they ever have. The Great Lakes Conference is right on par with the Suburban League, the Greater Cleveland Conference, and the Southwestern Conference when it comes to playoff success. And we saw that certainly with Holy Name and Coach Wondolowski, and we're going to see. We saw the same thing with Elyria Catholic and head coach Brian Fox. We keep, and we'll probably ask Coach Fox this, but they didn't lose on the field in the playoffs in 2 years, and they took it all the way to the state to the regional championship this year. So I'm really interested in talking to Coach Fox here and coming up and discussing that journey with him.
Yeah,
and the scary thing, guys, is Coach Wondolowski mentioned it. He's got his quarterback, his fullback, and his halfback, all key contributors coming back next year. And that's kind of a theme when you look at the Great Lakes Conference. They were a young conference with a lot of teams returning highly contributing juniors that are now turning into seniors. So we're seeing a potential, especially in this area, to really have the Great Lakes Conference be like even more of a meat grinder, if that's even possible.
Well, without further ado, let's welcome in Coach Fox in from Elyria Catholic. Coach, thanks for taking time to join us here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, I see you got the Christmas tree up there. You do a little Christmas decorating after Thanksgiving in the off season.
Oh, I did
now?
none of it. I sat around and watched my wife as she did it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and what a great season you had. You also, in your Panthers, made the regional final. You lost to Ottawa Glandorf, but what a great season, and you guys really had so much talent, and you went through the playoffs really unscathed early on, and then obviously you ran into Ottawa Glandorf. But talk a little bit about how your season went for you in the regular season. I mean, you guys dominated quite a bit this season.
It was a rough start, but we had a very good schedule. You run into teams like Elyria, obviously a Division I team that made the playoffs with 6 wins, and Midview, who took down a team like Avon Lake, and Perkins ended up being one of the best teams we played. And then Holy Name makes it to the regional finals in Division III, and then we get finally to Game 5, and we got to play a running back who's committed to the SEC. So. It was certainly a season. You going into it, you don't want to take those lumps, but it's you have to truly believe that losing and the bumps in the road are going to make you the team you need to be. So I think that really helped us come playoff time.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the run this year. In talking about your team all year, one of the things that I talked about a lot was the fact that you guys didn't lose in the playoffs last year on the field. And, some of you had a lot of great seniors last year, Steven Navalinsky being one of, as the quarterback, and, Levi Ellis coming back from a sophomore to his junior year, amongst many others. How did the team this year kind of ramp up for the playoffs, kind of knowing that they were probably going to end up playing this year with what happened last year?
It was exciting for them, and at the same time, obviously it really hurt last year that the seniors didn't get a chance to go out. It was our only issue all year, and of course it happens at that time. But You know, it has to give you some level of appreciation and understanding of, you know, what exactly is at stake and how things can be taken from you and how much you should appreciate the opportunities you have at hand. And you know, it was cool because, you know, you come into it and you don't really know much. I don't know anything about any of these teams we were playing, but you know, the opportunity to play in each game, you know, you saw it in a lot of kids' eyes where you had to convince kids like Levi Ellis and Hayden Gerhardt not to play when the game was in hand, even though they were injured. You know, they were fighting to get back on the field. It was difficult to convince them that they shouldn't be practicing, and you saw the desire in it and the want to play for, especially these seniors who were such a spectacular group of leaders in their eyes.
And one of the other seniors, I think Jack Canali was being one of them. He had a tremendous year, and I know I think he's going to Youngstown State if I'm not mistaken. Talk about some of the other seniors that really helped lead the team this year and kind of keep the team grounded. As the season went on, and especially when the playoffs hit.
That was one of the most impressive ones. You know, he was, you know, kind of a quieter kid. He transferred in, and you know, really he went to middle school with all these kids. So when he transferred in, it was almost like he was coming back home to us. So his growth as a leader was one of my favorite things. Everybody knew, I mean, he's 6'7". He is incredibly quick. He's so good off the line. He can catch anything nearby him. It was what he did outside of when he was getting the ball. The effort he gave in blocking, how we moved him around from position to position on defense. You know, he was constantly ready to go in, and he did all the small things, all the selfless things. You know, you try and convince a receiver, you know, how you did in a certain game can't be tabulated on a stat sheet. You know, just because you caught 5 passes doesn't mean you played great for 60 plays. And he really took that to heart. You know, we had a very small group of seniors, but they were so important to what we were trying to do. And, you know, one of the guys that immediately comes to mind is Archie Kenny and Tommy Rauscher were kind of like our Batman and Robin, to where, you know, neither of them for a long time really looked like football players. You know, Archie was 160-pound linebacker who ends up being a 2-time all-conference type guy. You know, I joke about it all the time, you know, back when our program was much smaller, about 40 kids. Archie Kenny was our backup inside backer that year to Leighton Banjoff. And, you know, we got to a point where we were going to put him in. But the fullback on Brookside was 240 pounds. So, you know, they were a downhill running team. I was like, no, he'll die. Like, I just took this class for my coaching certification. Can't do it. And 2 quarters later, he is leading Lorain County in sacks. And that's like, if you need anything to know about that kid, you know, he was 100% heart. He was intelligent. He got everybody aligned properly. He worked his tail off. And Tommy Rauscher, another one, you know, I bring him in and meet with all these coaches. And, you know, we had a Division I school came in and asked about him today. And it's like one of those things where, you know, I think back to, it was really about a year and a half ago, he was 175 pounds. And he was not an offensive lineman. He was one of those kids where, you know, what do you want to play when we go on offense? I don't care. I don't know. And at one point he said running back. And I was like, I don't think that's it for you. And so we put him on the line because there's nowhere else to put him. And all of a sudden he's all district. We're hoping for all state offensive lineman. And he may very well have been our best offensive lineman at times. You know, both are spectacular leaders. Alex Carendang, a 2-time captain for us, a 4-year letterman. You know, I've never really been able to put it into terms like how much he's meant to us, but everything is better when he's around. The weight room's better, the attitude's better, they're having more fun. You know, what we get done is better, the competitiveness is better. Like he lifts people, he does it in his own way. He's a goofball, but you know, he is such a strong leader, and he was so important to us. Jack Budinger comes out of nowhere, and you know, he had we always knew he was talented, but all of a sudden he really, you know, he like almost found why God put him on earth. You know, he had that drive, he had that heart. You know, his work ethic was incredible his last couple of years, and he goes from his freshman year. He was starting to get a little bit of playing time in practice, like, working in, maybe he'll get a chance, and breaks his arm. And all of a sudden he's a 2-year all conference kid. And he gets voted captain. And you go across the board. I'm trying to, like, Nate Shalley, an incredible swing man for us, played every single position on the offensive line, and was, a constant, going back and forth, spelling kids. Hayden Gerhardt he's probably ruined more practices than he's contributed to, because he just, like, he's one of those kids, like, I felt bad you can't put him in defense in any sort of competition period, because he'd ruin it. He was unblockable. He was horrifying. I was a scout team quarterback. I remember at one point I was like, a man that size shouldn't be able to move as quickly as he does. And you go across the board. You have guys. You have amazing stories like Harrison George, and across, we had 3 kickers who were all spectacular kids, and I love every one of them. And I know I'm gonna end up hating myself. Nick Toman, he was unbelievable for us. Didn't even play his freshman year. It's he comes out and he earns a spot, and all of a sudden he's a great corner. And it's so fun to talk about these kids, because they're amazing kids. We've all had. I talked to a guy once. He said he coached 3 NFL players, and he said, I don't hate them, but I never enjoyed them. And it was kind of sad that, just because a person is a phenomenal football player doesn't mean you're going to necessarily enjoy being around them, because they, it's not like character is a necessity to be an NFL body. But I got incredibly lucky that the freshmen that came in my first year ended up being the seniors that turned this from, a talented team to a successful program.
And Coach, we were talking before you came on, and again, thank you for coming on tonight and taking the time to go over your season. But you guys are the rarity in the GLC in that you guys are a Division 5 school, just based on numbers. But you're basically playing a Division 3, Division 2 school throughout your season. Looking over, over the last couple of years, especially from a playoff standpoint, I know last year's kind of your outlier because you didn't get an opportunity. But do you feel that schedule, the GLC schedule, prepares your team more or less going into the playoffs, because it gives you that idea of, we play tough teams. There's not a lot of teams out there that play our schedule in our division, so to speak, that you're going to run into. Is that something you kind of not rely on, but maybe look to and say, hey, guys, we got to prove ourselves week in and week out, because when the playoffs come, we're going to be battle tested?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a blessing. And, the expansion of the playoffs, I've always thought is, it's tedious, I get, but it's great, because we need it. How do we go out there and we try and schedule these games, and everyone's afraid to schedule certain people, and you dance around teams. I was talking to Tiger Laverty at when we were playing him in a playoff soccer game, and he's just like, I can't play anybody. I'm talking about a coach over at I think it was Mogador. They had to go down the year we played them. They had to go down and play some team in West Virginia. And, it's crazy how people are struggle to challenge themselves and go out and play these games. But it's a blessing. And, it's one of those things where, it's always going to be a difficult game, but you love the fact that we got to play Holy Name every year. I set it in my mind, and, because that's our crossover game for the conference. We may end up playing them twice in some years. And my thinking was like, man, we got the top team in the conference every single year. But, it's one of those things where you're thankful, because I talked to him at one point, like, even if we didn't have a crossover, we'd still want to play, because it's an amazing test, and they're a great coaching staff. And, we played a running back who's going to the SEC. We played a running back who's going to the Big Ten. So, at some level, it has to alleviate the fear of what the playoffs can bring. And it has to give you enough confidence that, yes, we're 8-2, but, we've been in nothing but heavyweight bouts. And, it's funny. I was reading something on Georgia the other day, and they said, coming into the SEC championship game, the biggest win they had was Kentucky. And, it's not to say Kentucky's doing a great job building a program, but, you think about what it takes to win a championship, and you can't not test yourself week in and week out. You can't not taste failure and taste your own blood when you go into a fight, and expect to be great when it comes time to challenge yourself.
Now let me ask you this:
You know,
with the expansion of the playoffs, do you think that'll have some high school teams start scheduling maybe some more difficult teams early on in the season instead of like you said, maybe not having such challenging games early on? Maybe with the expansion, since more teams get in, they'll start taking on maybe, and you'll see some different matchups that present some challenges early on.
I think you'd be a fool not to. You know what I mean? How many coaching adages talk about the importance of failure, talking about the importance of losses. I mean, I myself hated every minute of our 3 losses, but it's amazing what I got from them. And I was even talking to somebody, because we joked that, Rocky River, we trailed for 0 seconds of the game, but when it was over, we were losing. And, how important that was. I don't even know if I change it, because the things that we needed to face, the issues that may have been bubbling underneath, you don't face that if you actually win. It's like the actual controversy has to smack you in the face to see who you really are underneath. And until you are willing to actually look at who you are from a failure standpoint and be honest with yourself about your shortcomings, how can you at all say that you are trying to grow as a human being? So, with all, again, these coaching adages that say you need to experience failure, you need to challenge yourself, if you can find one that says, you should really go an easy route and avoid all confrontation, then maybe I'll relent. But, I see what we went through this year, and the start to the season is phenomenally important to how the ending happened.
Yeah, Coach, and you mentioned, excuse me, that the teams that you played in the playoffs, you had no idea anything about these teams. So how in the world did you prepare for them? How did you, did you have to go through the back channels to try to get some film on these teams, or how do you prepare, or do you just have your kind of fundamentals of your team you have to deal with, and you have to just expound on them?
It's funny, we don't teach a lot of coverage. You know what I mean?
Right.
We teach man principles, zone principles, but everything comes down to numbers. Luckily, over like the teams we played, they had a bunch of spread sets. You end up kind of going off of what you can do in your pregame preparation. I was fortunate enough that our starting center and quarterback had 9th period study halls, and I had no class that period. So it was one of those things where, when you run into certain coverages, we had our audibles, and you see our quarterback do it all the time, where he goes up there and he just changes the play. And, we have it, and it's funny, like I say him so much. I love when the kids make fun of me, because I know they're actually listening. But, however many times we say, what are your man indicators? And everyone's yelling out eyes and leverage. So, we have our man beaters. We pair them with our zone beaters. We have our kill plays, our audibles that we go to, but, everything's so rooted in numbers that we don't worry as much about a lot of coverages. So, it was, I won't say it was easy, but it was one of those things where, you end up just looking at a few clips, and then you're okay with the schematics of what you want to call that week and how you want to handle them defensively. But then it comes down to what are their best players, and how do you work around them? So I won't say it was easy, but if you're doing too much, the most fun I've ever had, as far as preparation for a game, have always been losses. So I try and enjoy myself as little as possible, go with what we have, not draw too much crap up, and just get the ball in the good players' hands and get out of the way.
And speaking of that, I was lucky enough to cover your guys' game against Bay Village, and I don't stop talking about this run by Tavion Thomas, because I'm pretty sure he left a footprint in this kid's chest when he ran over him. And by the way, the nicest kid I've ever talked to.
Oh, absolutely.
Just one of the nicest kid, but just a savage run. But I noticed in that game, and it kind of preceded that to your playoff run, was you guys don't do a lot of fancy, movement. It's very much line up, run the ball. And when you have running backs like a Levi Ellis and a Tavion Thomas, not to mention your offensive line, which was opening holes that I think I could walk through. at least in that game. Does it make preparation, at least on that side of the ball, a little bit, clearer? Like, we're just going to do what we do until they stop it. And if they do something crazy, we can adjust mid-game. Is there a lot of changing the game plan week to week for you guys, or is it mostly just these are our core, we're going to run these core plays, and they're going to, until they stop it?
Yeah, and that was, early on, because, we're a heavy gap scheme team. That run you're talking about was counter. We run counter. We run a whole lot of it. I love gap scheme. We'll run some inside zone, but even our inside zone is shotgun veer. It's not like your traditional zone. We're not giving help front side. We're really not giving much help at all. I do love wide zone. It's one of my favorite plays, but for the main part of what we're doing, it's a whole lot of counter. We'll mix in our RPO run game, but it's one of those things where I would love to take more credit for everything we're doing, but it's the weight room. It is. And like, you look at a guy like Tavion, that run, it seemed like when he ran into that kid, he didn't realize it was gonna go that way.
It very much seemed like he was like, oh, crap, did I get a penalty? Yeah. And they ran into the end zone. So it was my favorite run all year that I got to cover.
I see a kid last year going into Bay Week. Tavion was 165 pounds. This year he's 195. He's in his mid 400s in squat. He has God-given leverage at 5'6". So yeah, exactly. Where do you hit him? The kid's 70% thighs. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's hard to find a good spot. But we tried to, and you get into your fun coaching adjustments, your air raid schemes where they start to call counter, where things bounce a little bit, and you try and make your adjustments. But you got to ask any of our offensive linemen about what is our first adjustment when a team is going to spill counter. You hit them harder. And at the end of the day, we preach that over and over again. It's the beauty of gap scheme plays is, you'll hit it for 2, hit it for 3. Then eventually we're going to gain a little bit more, but it's really just finding a way to run your same thing. And, a lot of it's formation, a lot of it's motion, and a lot of it's RPO, because all you got to do is, if you're going to spill it, you got to have either somebody accounting for the guy they're spilling it to as far as blocking scheme goes, or you have to be able to adjust what you're doing in your RPO system. So, I think the wing T guys call it super counter or super power. But you'd see a lot of times, we kept running into odd fronts that were trying to spill it. So we'd have 3 pullers. You have your wrap pull for the inside backer, you wrap pull for the outside backer, you kick out the end, and whoever's left, you let the running back figure it out from there. So we really pulled a lot from the Gus Malzahn playbook, where you got, what looks like jet motion, but it's really not, and it ends up being just wide receivers turning into fullbacks. So, we really don't adjust it too much. We have a whole lot of tags, but, it's as long as the kids know what they're doing. A lot of times it's just call it and don't overcoach them. You stay on your aim point. When somebody in the other color jersey is in your way, move.
There you go. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
Hey, Coach, I'll be honest with you, we don't normally ask about coaches about other players from other teams, but I would be remiss to not ask you about the battles between your defense and one Tommy Beebe from Rocky River.
Yeah.
You have a couple of monsters on your run with Levi and Tavion, but how was that game?
It was wild, man. And it was wild because on Thursday we found out we weren't going to have who will probably end up being an all-state inside backer in Tony Grasso due to contact tracing literally on Thursday. So we had open tryouts, like on a walkthrough for who was going to fill in at outside backer because we moved Tavion inside. But Tommy Beebe is a phenomenal football player. You see him, like there was one clip where I felt like they had, I forget who we were watching, but they seemed to have everybody fooled but him, and he shot through like a cannon. You see his speed, you see his size, you see his strength. It's one of those things where I know you think you're Division I, but that's Division I. And if you're not as big, as fast, as strong, you got to really reevaluate where you're going to start looking at schools. It's funny because myself and 2 of our coaches had his mom as a professor at BW. we all kind of went through, and we had her through the program. She's such a nice, a nice person and a phenomenal teacher. So he comes from good stock. It was, we knew what they were going to do. We knew how they were gonna. They line up in heavy fronts. They got a big old tight end. I don't know his name, number 20. He was a player. They leave no splits. They make you go up there and challenge them downhill. And I'd like to say we did well against them, and something like it was under 90 yards, which it's pretty darn good. But at the end of the day, when you see what we got beat on with some of those plays, the little pop passes, their offense coordinator did a wonderful job. Coach Wells is a smart guy. He had some great things schemed up, but you see what really killed us was, we said 9 players are going to stop Tommy Beebe, and we're going to just hope for the best with everything else. And they snuck a few plays on us, and gosh, that kicker could boat it. So it was a fun game, and you can't be anything but proud of your kids the way they fought. And you got a very inspired game from Levi Ellis and Archie Kenny, the dudes up front. Tavion Thomas had like 16 tackles in his first ever started inside backer. So, you got to be excited about everything you got. But he is so talented. I cannot wait to watch him play.
Yeah, I think that's the theme in the Great Lakes Conference. I mean, every week you're always facing talent all over the place. I mean, when you look at some of the coaches too, there's great coaches in the Great Lakes Conference. Are you friends? And after these games, I mean, are there a group of Great Lakes coaches that get together and just talk football? I mean, I'd love to be the glass on that table to hear some of these coaches talking a little bit about football and about the games during the season. I didn't know if coaches in the Great Lakes Conference, they get together and do that. Do you have friends in the Great Lakes Conference that you talk to after the season's over?
Oh, there's a bunch that I would love to. I mean, my favorite has got to be the Valley Forge coach.
Marcelo DeAngelis.
Yes, he's sharp. He is very, like, you just see something like the wing tee and how he's adapted it to almost like a double wing look. And it sounds dumb because, again, I know he's probably called 4 verts maybe once in his career. But like I try to explain to people now, when you put that in the double wing, you have 4 vertical threats, which means you have to have 4 people accountable for that. You can't, either you just zone off and you lose a safety in the run scheme, or you have to have some sort of adjustment to it. And, he knew how people were adjusting the strength to the Kentrell Marks, their phenomenal running back going to Purdue. And he did all that. And it's crazy. You see how their fullback, Eddie Starks, he had very similar numbers to it. So, you see how he was able to do all that. And then he cracks me up. He's a hilarious guy. He was fun to talk to. But it's almost difficult. You go through some of these punishing games. It's difficult during it to sit there and say, oh, I'd love to hang out and talk to him at some point, because usually you leave and think, like, man, I don't want to see that guy ever again. There's great guys. There's great coaches. Ron Rutt, he's a phenomenal coach. He schemed us up well, and he's built a wonderful program over there at Bay. And it's I know that Coach Wando, you see how intelligent, how driven he is. I mean, a 7-win, or I don't even know what their record was. It might have been 500. He takes that team to the regional finals. You can't help but admire him throughout the year, even if you're battling with them week in and week out.
I can tell you from firsthand experience. I went to college with Coach DeAngelis, and that dude he is every bit of a rat as you think he is.
I can only imagine. He's a nice guy.
He's a very good dude. He's a very, very good dude.
Yeah, and it's even like a drag out game like we had, and he was all smiles, and he is. I feel like every other year we go back and forth. He's definitely got the best of us on a number of occasions. I'm still waking up screaming from what happened last year when we tried to. I don't know how many yards we gave up on the ground, but it had to be darn near 2,000.
Well, there's a lot of great coaches in the Great Lakes Conference, and we appreciate you coming on our show and talking a little
Absolutely.
Elyria Catholic football and high school football in general, and you guys had a great season, and you guys continually have a great season. I mean, 11 wins this season, and we appreciate you coming on and talking football with us, and we'll look forward to talking to you next year. Enjoy your off season and your time off. We hope you have a great holiday season, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, man. You guys make this thing special for these kids. So I love that we get all this interest, and I know the kids were going nuts when you guys had Tavion on. Everybody loved it. So he was
so great.
Much fun for them. So
Dude,
yeah, he was great. It was a fun
I really
interview.
appreciate it.
Dude, the kids are a blast to talk to. You never know what they'll say, or we had one kid tell us he's the best dancer on the team, and then we told him to prove it, and he's like, "Oh, I can't do it on here." I'm like, "Oh yeah," but it's a lot of fun. We love having the student athletes on it, and obviously you coaches, because you guys put a lot of time and effort in as well. But it's a blast, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, guys. You have a wonderful night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Coach.
You too, Coach.
Appreciate it. Great season.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, want to thank head coach of the Elyria Catholic Panthers, Brian Fox, for joining us here on Sports on Tap. And guys, you just talking to two coaches that have been deep into the playoffs, and he really got into talking about coaches and different teams, and it just shows you the Great Lakes Conference is just impressive. I'm really glad we started to cover the Great Lakes Conference, because a lot of great teams, and it's in a great area. I mean, you could tell a lot of really smart coaches. Like most conferences, they have a lot of great coaches, but he broke it down really well there.
I like
Rob,
Go ahead, Sean.
we had to cover the Great Lakes Conference because we're obligated to do the Buckeye recap every week, sometimes twice in 1 week.
I know.
So we had to cover
I seem
the
to
Great
always
Lakes
miss it, though. I don't know how.
Yeah,
but-
you really do. For a guy that's running the show.
I like this take on the expanded playoff, though, and how that it's going to affect a regular season schedule. That's really not something I thought of when it came to playoff expansion. And he brings up a valid point. It will help with scheduling and potential to see some matchups we would have never seen if this expanded playoff wasn't in the trenches. So that's an interesting point. He seemed to be in favor of it.
Well, and you know what?
For that
On
reason.
the flip side of that, Josh, it's a great conversation starter, because you're right. For the longest time, schools were afraid to schedule teams because of how it would affect their possible playoffs. Now, with more opportunities, that fear may not be gone, but it's certainly lessened. And you can recover. I mean, we saw with Avon this year. Avon lost 2 games early on, and I was one of the teams that's like, wow, you never see that. And they were able to bounce back and make a deep run. So, and Hoban's the same way. Lost a couple games early, recovers back. But again, it's not that BCS fear to take advantage from the college game where one loss ruins your season. That's not the case. But it kind of was, because there was only a certain amount of opportunities for playoff spots previously. So there's a flip side to each coin. But I share what Coach Wondolowski mentioned is when you see those week 1 of the playoff scores, and some scores were dropping 70 points on a team or something like that. You kind of that's not fun for anyone. Whether you're winning by 70 or you're losing by 70, it's not that much fun. But everyone's got their opinion, and that's certainly good to hear from Coach Fox and Coach Wondolowski.
Absolutely. Well, should we get back in to the recaps? Where did we leave off? I think it was it.
We left off, Rob. We left off at Division 5, and I believe this is the crow eating portion of the show.
Oh, here it is.
So I'm just going to go ahead and get this ready to be told. And I'm going to kick it to our crow eater himself, Mr. Edward Dick.
Yeah, please do. This was a matchup
right.
between Versailles and Kirtland. Kirtland, the owner of a 55-game winning streak. I guess if I did a little bit of research, I would have also realized that Versailles had a 54-game winning streak.
Oh, man.
A little bit ago. Not to the point where the Kirtland kids would have really known or really been concerned with that, but what it does speak to is that Versailles has a very, very good football community for quite some time, just like Kirtland is. So hard to say that really. I can't really tell you that had an impact on the game. But as far as where a team like Versailles certainly was not going to be scared of Kirtland given their own history, and they certainly were not. Versailles had they really, from what I read about this game, they controlled the first half. They played keep away about as good as you possibly can against Kirtland. I think they doubled them up in plays run, some on 34-17. So I mean, Kirtland just didn't have the ball, and if you don't have the ball, you're not going to score. And Versailles was played this perfectly. It's not very often that Kirtland trails in the second half. This was one of those games, and they weren't able to tackle Coach Laverty. They just weren't able to get it done. It was 20-3 going into the fourth quarter, which is unheard of if you're Kirtland. They got a couple of touchdowns. In the fourth, they were able to score with 37 seconds left to bring it within a 4-point game. Unfortunately, the extra point got blocked, so that put even more pressure on even at that point. But they weren't able to get the onside kick, and as it stands, it was Versailles with the victory over Kirtland. Carson Bay had 99 yards rushing off of. He had one touchdown. They didn't really pass. He also had 129 yards passing and a touchdown. For Kirtland, it was Gage Sullivan, 120 yards on the ground. They don't really pass very often, but Ramon Lascano had to throw for 101 yards to try to keep this team in it. It was just a really, really this is what you need to do to beat Kirtland. You have to keep the ball away from them, and it doesn't get much better than that when it comes to the. Looking at the numbers, Versailles had the ball on average for 8 minutes per quarter.
Man, yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, their first 3 drives, 10 plays, 63 yards, they scored. Then another 10 plays, 65 yards. Then a 13-play, 80-yard. That took 7 minutes and 22 seconds. I mean, like you said, that's when they got up 20-3. Kirtland did respond, after their first drive with a 9-play, 43-yard drive that led to a 38-yard field goal. But, Versailles, like you said, they just established some really impressive drives. And when you get down 20-3 and you're like, holy cow, it's the fourth quarter, that's a tough thing to do, especially versus a good team here in the playoffs.
Well, I think it goes to what we talked about these past couple of weeks regarding playoff football. And you really have to execute your plan and not make any mistakes. And in this case, you see Versailles doing just that. They came in. They said, "We're going to control the ball. We're going to control the ball, and thereby control the game. We're not going to turn the ball over," which I don't believe they did. They didn't give Kirtland any sort of opportunity to kind of stack points or stack plays on each other. They came in, they executed their plan flawlessly, and as Ed mentioned, as we talked about, that's what it takes to beat a Kirtland. You have to play flawless, almost perfect football, and they did that. And they found themselves in a very, very good position at crunch time. They made a team like Kirtland, who hasn't been in this position all year, kind of scrambling towards the end, maybe not familiar with how to kind of run that because they've been in control of games a lot. Or at least have been able to kind of impose their will, so to speak, from moving through these playoffs. So my hat's off to Versailles. I mean, you talk about running a plan to perfection. They did that. They controlled it. They didn't give Kirtland any opportunity to breathe. They also didn't panic when Kirtland does what they do, and that's score points and kind of get back in it. They didn't just kind of give up the ship. They still were working their plan. Got lucky with an onside kick, blocked a field goal. That's it. That the brakes went Versailles' way right now. And I think, take nothing away from Kirtland in this season or this 55-game, winning streak. It's just you ran into a team that was able to execute everything they laid out flawlessly. And the only thing you can do if you're Kirtland is tip your cap and say, guys, we got beat by a better team that night. It wasn't mistakes we made. They came out, they beat us by playing their game, and that's what Versailles did.
And Kirtland, I think in this case too, Sean, Kirtland did suffer the turnover bug. They had 4 turnovers, which is very, very unlike Kirtland. 3 interceptions. Kirtland isn't like throwing the ball very much if they don't have to, and I think Versailles forced them to do so because they were able to pile up points and just really maintain that advantage in possession, and it may have forced Kirtland into doing some things they didn't really want to do, but just not something you see very often. So, as you said, congratulations to Versailles, and obviously congratulations to Kirtland for such a tremendous run through the playoffs and over the last few years. Coach Laverty and the Hornets are not going anywhere, but right now Versailles is on top.
That they are, Ed. That they are. Now we're going to move on to Division 6. And kind of another upset here. We look at, Division 6 where there's one team that I've never really seen before, which is Cary, and a team that I'm very familiar with seeing in this particular situation every year, and that's Coldwater. But the fact at this point is that Cary was able to get a victory and win their state champion, the Division 6 state champion, 26-14, over perennial stalwart Coldwater, who's always in the mix and always seems to be in the state finals or in this or around them in this division every year. So this was a big win for Cary, obviously winning their Division 6 final over Coldwater, 26-14.
Yeah, I mean, look at the defense. I mean, they gave up 14 points in the first half. In the second half, they clamped down and didn't allow a point from Coldwater. So Cary's defense, impressive in this one, and they jumped out early. They actually didn't score first. It was Coldwater that scored first with a Fullenkamp 1-yard rush for a touchdown. They were up 7-0, and Cary responded in the first quarter. They ended up going for 2 and getting it and led 8-7. But from then on, they scored again, and they're up 15-7. Then they had another nice drive. They went for 2 and got it again. Obviously, this is a team that believes they can get 2-point conversions. They were up 23-7 at one point before Coldwater would score in the second quarter there, and that looked like it was right before half. So they were able to get close and at least get close before half, but then not much scoring there in the second half with only a field goal by Cary, but impressive defensive performance by Cary to stop a very well and fundamentally sound Coldwater team.
Yeah, and Cary having a successful season, finishing their season 15-1. Their only loss came at week 1, where they were at Hopewell Loudon. They lost 30-15. Other than that, they've reeled off 15 straight wins to end it all with the state championship in Division 6.
Congratulations to them. I mean, that's a great feat for any team. All is not lost when you're 0-1 apparently. All right, and our final division we're gonna touch on here is Division 7. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, there's death, there's taxes, and there's certain football teams that are always in the state finals, and Division 7 is no different. Maria Stein, Marion Local with a 42-7 drubbing. In fact, really the only blowout win of the state finals this year over Newark Catholic. And guys, Marion Local, this is what they do. They win state championships in Division 7. They are a fantastic team. They're a dominant program, in that division. And unfortunately, they were the buzzsaw that Newark Catholic just kind of ran into in this. And and again, Marion Local wins another state title, and it comes on the back of a 42-7 victory over Newark Catholic.
And for Marion Local, I mean, they were able to sling the ball a little bit here. Peyton Ott had completed 13 of 18 for 252 yards and had 3 touchdowns. Brady Runabaum had 124 yards receiving and 2 of those touchdowns. Dylan Fleck had 64 yards. Ott also ran 13 times for 83 yards. So he and 2 touchdowns. So he had his fingerprints all over this game, and it was just tough sledding for Newark Catholic. They really weren't able to get too much going. Cole Cantor had 103 yards and a touchdown, but he had 2 interceptions and completed less than 50% of his passes. No indictment on him as a player. I think it more or less speaks to how good Marion Local is and has been over the years. So certainly no shame in this result. 402 total yards for Maria Stein, Marion Local, 148 for Newark Catholic. So as you said, Sean, there's really not much more to discuss about this outside of Marion Local just continues their dominance in Division 7. So congratulations to both teams for getting to this stage, and congratulations to Marion Local on another state championship.
Yeah, congratulations to all the teams. Winning championships and making it to the championship game. I mean, something to be proud of, and I'm sure it looked like they had a great crowd at the Hall of Fame Stadium. I think overall, there were over 30,000 people for some of these games. So all together combined, but an impressive turnout, and glad that they had a great crowd this weekend.
Guys, unfortunately, that wraps us up, doesn't it? I mean, I think that.
Yeah.
That's what's fit the print for the high school football season, huh, Sean?
Fit to print, baby. It's all the news they're talking about. It's over.
Well, fellas, I think I can speak for all of us in saying, how fun this was this season to actually kind of morph our show into talking to players every week, talking to coaches as usual. And we cannot thank enough all the teams out there, the players, the athletic directors, the parents, the fans of these teams. It was a really fun year to watch all these teams go out and compete and make playoff runs. But it was a fun year for us as well to cover it and to grow as a show. And we can't do that without everyone who's watched the show, participated in our polls on Twitter, and especially all the players and the coaches who come on our little Monday night show here and talked about their game, talked about their season. So can't thank them enough. And to everyone who's become a follower, a fan of us, we appreciate it very much, and very much looking forward to the 22 season we got coming up next year.
Also,
I had to make sure I said 2022. Yeah.
2022. Also, big shout out to our football sponsor, G&G Fitness, RRT Productions. Z's Creamer being those guys, always willing to support what we do, and really, our Coach of the Week is a sponsored by G&G Fitness. Our Player of the Week sponsored by RRT Productions, where they shoot, they edit, you win. I'm told to say that. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun year. I'm looking forward to next year because I think now that we have a nice little blueprint of what we're doing, we can expand this out a little bit. Also, I'm going to put up my video of Tavion Thomas running over that Bay Village. I think it was a safety as Player of the Year, but I'll throw that out there. I'm a little biased because I shot it and I accidentally shot it because I was trying to send a video at the same time, so I accidentally got it, which. Luck favors the lucky.
I will say, Sean, you did up your game this year. You shot video, and we got to see it online. Sean,
yes.
Sean upped his game this year. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah, welcome to 2021, just in time for 2022. Good job, Sean.
Thanks, guys. I try really hard.
Wait, hold on. Let's all just listen. It sounds like Sean's peeing.
No,
we heard that a few times. I was going to tell you.
In my Champions Cup. Because I can't drink with this because it makes a loud whistling sound. So I have to pour it into a cup, and it sounds
I should you know what? I probably should have muted you. I thought he might mute it, but I was too late to the punch. I'm like,
That's all right.
Yeah. No big deal.
All right, guys. So next on our docket is hockey. Make sure you keep up with our website because we got the scores that go up there every day, and we'll also be going out and doing some live streaming of some actual games in arena, which we're looking forward to. That schedule's still a little up in the air. We'll hopefully get that squared away here in the next couple of days or so. We'll let you know where we're going to be at, but we'll definitely have some games coming up in the coming days, if not weeks.
Hockey night in Cleveland, baby!
That's right. Hockey night in Northeast Ohio. Be ready for it, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, great job. This has been a great high school football season. It's been a lot of fun, and like Josh said, thanks to everyone who was a part of it. You guys are a part of it, coaches, ADs, and players, student athletes. We appreciate you. We couldn't do this show without you. So, guys, without further ado, for Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, I'm Rob Troutman. Want to thank you for watching Sports on Tap on our YouTube Live. Go and subscribe to our YouTube page. Visit www.sportsontappodcast.com. At SOT Podcasts on Twitter and much, much more on social media. We'll see you next season for 2022. If you want to follow us for hockey and other sports, stay up with Sports on Tap. All right, guys, great job. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. Have a great holiday, everyone. See ya.